The newest episode of The Owl House, O Titan, Where Art Thou, might be my favorite example of storytelling in this entire series. It's an episode that, like, half the time is like a regular episode of the show, and the other half of the time, it's King going on an existential journey of self-discovery throughout the Boiling Isles as he tries to discover some connection to his ancestor. And I'm still not 100% convinced that the Boiling Isles Titan is literally supposed to be his father. But I don't think it matters at this point. Because King has a family, obviously. But he's like any adopted kid who never knew his birth parents. He wants to find some connection to that family, even if he still values the connections that he already has. In fact, that's what the episode's really about at the end of the day. Because I'll go ahead and talk about his journey first. It's told mostly in montage, and it involves, after they reunite with Ida and Lilith following him around, attempting to worship him as a god, treating him much the way that she used to treat Bellos, and King actually points that out to her, which I thought was an interesting character quirk of hers for them to bring back. I assumed she had grown past that, but, it's cool that they did something else with it. I guess, like, even if they never bring it up again after this, it worked so well in this episode that I'm glad they brought it up. But King has come to understand himself better throughout all of this. He's been traveling around with Steve, that coven guard that was hanging out at Lilith's party back when. And if I'm not mistaken, both of these characters are voiced by the same person. Yeah, Steve... Oh no, it looks like they changed it, but originally, anyway, at least, Steve was voiced by Alex Hirsch, just like King is. So it's kind of like two Alex Hirsch characters chilling out, having a fun adventure with each other. And then, like, there's this heartbreaking scene where King hugs one of the Titan's ribs, and another one where he lays down in a puddle and poses himself like the Titan, so he could try to feel some connection to it by mimicking its position in the water. And it's mostly handled through montage, and it's mostly silent. And throughout their journey together, you can see Steve being kind to him, just being a kind person. Like, he even puts a little figurine of a witch on King's belly when he's posing as the Titan to kind of help with the whole image of it, And you wouldn't expect an Emperor's Coven guard to be like that. But Steve is going through his own journey of self-discovery throughout this entire thing, and they happen in parallel, and they give advice to each other. And it culminates with King realizing he doesn't want to be the person he always thought he wanted to be. He wants to be better than that. And Steve realizing the same, and officially leaving the Emperor's Coven permanently, removing his mask. It was just very cute and very touching. And effectively it ends with King telling off Lilith and then announcing that he used to want power and influence and he just doesn't anymore. He's a better person now. And I keep going back to the fact that that's, like, he's the way he is because of Luce. Because Luce made him a better person because she made Ida a better person. Ida was never really a bad person, but she was far less responsible back when they first met. And she and King certainly didn't have a mother-son dynamic back then, right? It's all because of Luce and her influence that these characters are where they are now. And I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen from the very beginning. Ever since I started to formulate, ever since the fandom at large, let's say, started to formulate the theory that King was a Titan, it was always clear that Luce's influence on him was going to make him a better person by the time he found out. And it's so good. It's so well done. And I just feel like I needed to talk about it first, because there's an A and a B plot in this one. They happen at the same time, and I'm straight up worried, because the other one's a little more actiony. I'm straight up worried if I don't talk about this plot first, I'm gonna forget stuff. The most interesting thing, though, from a lore perspective about King's plot here is that, like I mentioned it in the review. I think it was literally in the review. What was the name of that one? Where we found out he was a Titan. What was it called? I really should remember this, but I don't. You know which one I'm talking about, though. I think I mentioned it literally in that review. I don't think I waited until the next review to talk about it like I do sometimes. But a connection was made between him and the Collector as the first step in sacrificing him to resurrect the Collector, or restore the Collector's physical form, whatever that specifically would have done. And I mentioned, well, I implied, I think that connection is going to be important. I think it's possible that the sacrifice could still happen, which means King is still in danger. But also, and they straight up did it in this episode too. Also, I was wondering if the connection between them would allow him to interact with the Collector. And that's what happened. It's not exactly what happened, but it's kind of what happened in this episode, because we find out in this episode that the Collector is actually an Ultra Beast trapped in a giant beast ball inside that in-between realm that Luce ended up in that one time. And obviously I'm joking about it being an Ultra Beast, but doesn't that look like a beast ball from Pokemon? Doesn't it, really? And this suggests some interesting stuff. Like his dialogue here, first of all, waiting for the Day of Unity because he'll have friends to play with finally. Combined with the fact that, one, the door was not found in any area specifically associated with Bellows. It was found in a place that seems to be specifically associated with Bellows' brother. That being the presumed old Clawthorn residence. Two, Bellows is having to figure out how to rebuild the door from the parts of the destroyed door. He doesn't know how to build a new working door himself. And three, the fact that even though it was an imperfect replica, the door that Luce built from Bellows' notes took her to that in-between realm. It seems like Bellows didn't ever build a working door to the human realm. His brother did. He just did that thing he does in his journal where he revised things to make himself seem smarter and said he did, right? Where he actually ended up was that in-between realm where he met the Collector and was able to interact with the Collector just enough to learn that the Collector would be useful for his plans. Guys, I think the Collector is just a child who, much like King was when Luce first showed up on the Boiling Isles, isn't really emotionally mature enough yet in the context of the Collector, obviously, to understand that their morality was bad. I think the Collector is the one being manipulated by Bellows and not the other way around. That Bellows, a person who has shown himself to be entirely okay with manipulating children, is manipulating a powerful Eldritch God child to help him commit genocide. Because think about it for a second. They just did this over on Amphibia, where we found out that the evil king in that show actually had a greater evil pulling his strings, specifically so that that greater evil could be the final villain and they could redeem him. But it's very clear that they don't intend to redeem Bellows. He is a truly irredeemable character. So why would they do the trope where a greater evil is standing behind him pulling his strings if they don't intend to make that the real villain? I think they're going to pull the rug out from under us and make the Collector just another victim of Bellows. And I'm really excited to see if I'm right, because if I am right, this connection between him and King is going to be the way that King passes on what he learned from Luce to redeem the Collector. How cool is that? How cool would that be? Because based on its dialogue here, the Collector really does seem like a child who just thinks he's playing a game and just doesn't understand that it's more than that. There you go, mini Owl House theory. I have a couple more Owl House theories coming too. So think of that one as an appetizer, I guess. That said, the other plot in this episode was interesting as well. And some of this happens before the rest of that other stuff I was just talking about. Luce, Hootie, and King end up back at the Owl House, only to find the Emperor's Coven having ransacked the place, carting all of their stuff off to some warehouse somewhere, including King's stuff, which he really needs his stuffed animal right now for comfort, which is actually the driving force behind Luce's part of the episode, at least for a while. And so leaving him behind at the knee, where Lilith left a little note indicating that she and Ida would be hiding at the knee so that the kids could find them, which is something Ida didn't want. She wanted the kids off somewhere safe, right? But, this worked out well enough, I think. And after telling them what King is, Luce convinces Ida to go with her to try to break into that warehouse and get the stuffed animal back, because that's how much she loves her little brother. And so they infiltrate the place disguised as Coven guards. But while they're there, Ida is given an opportunity to contact Rain, and they have a little conversation. And Ida's able to recognize that Rain has been playing her, that they didn't lose their memory, and is like, hey, I will turn myself in, make it easier for you guys if you just come get Luce and King and take them someplace safe. Because, and she's been lying to Luce about this, Ida and Lilith have absolutely no plan to stop the Emperor. They have no idea how they could even begin to stop what's coming. It's just bigger than them. And Ida's just trying to be a good mom. She's just trying to be a good mom and look out for her kids above anything else. And that's where she makes a mistake, because she's also trying to look out for them by not telling them that things are as hopeless as they actually are. And lying to Luce like that, when Luce overhears her trying to send her away, she gets mad because she thinks Ida doesn't trust her to take part in whatever scheme she's come up with. And the two fight. And I'm not going to lie and say that I wasn't kind of excited to see this fight, because when else are we going to see these two characters fight seriously? But this wasn't some martial arts tournament or training session or something like you might see in like a shonen anime or something, because this isn't that kind of show. These were these two characters fighting for their individual ideals against each other. And it was hard to watch. It was really hard to watch. It was cool to see how they might counter each other's abilities, but it was a difficult scene to watch. But in the end, they're captured anyway, so it seemingly doesn't even matter. Until it turns out that they were captured by agents of the new resistance, Covens Against the Throne, or CATs. And the episode makes exactly the joke I would have. Upon the utterance of that name, Luce puts her cat hood up. It was perfect. And now, Ida and the rest of her little group, Luce and the rest of their little group, are directly involved in the resistance. Again. Some of them for the first time. You get what I'm saying, though. And we're basically set up for the end of this story arc. It's really exciting. Most exciting, though, I think, is that it turns out Ida grabs something else from that warehouse. And it's Luce's palisman wood. I'm assuming it's going to happen at least mostly between episodes, but it seems like by next episode Luce is going to have her palisman. And I couldn't be more excited. These are such great characters, and I love them a lot. And I'm going to be so happy to see her as happy as she's going to be to finally have her magic staff. This is very much a transitional episode. It was very much here specifically to get these characters to where they needed to be for what's to come next. But it was absolutely brilliantly done. It was so well put together. It didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like an in-between kind of story. It felt like its own thing, while still furthering the plot lines of everything going on around it. It's just brilliant. It's a brilliantly crafted story. Like, at this point, do I need to keep saying that about this show? It's good. It's really freaking good. And especially now that Amphibia is officially over, I could say with 100% confidence that this is the best cartoon currently airing on television right now. If you have slept on this show, like, I don't think I'm going to reach you with this review, because why would you be watching it? But if somehow I do, and you have slept on this show, you absolutely need to check it out. It won't feel as big a deal as it is until you get probably to around Enchanting Gromfright. But as you go, I promise, the more you learn about this show and its world, the more the little drops, the little lore drops that mostly just came off as like gags or one-off bits of world building back in those early season 1 episodes, they'll feel so much more important. And you'll want to go back and rewatch those episodes. It's just that kind of show. It's really that good. All that said, though, guys, what did you think of the Owl House episode, O Titan, Where Art Thou, if you have seen it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. And also, what do you guys think Lucis Palisman's going to be? I'm really interested to hear people's takes on that. I think it's going to be a bird of some kind. Don't really know what kind, honestly. But I think it'll be a bird of some kind. But what do you guys think? Really interested to hear. But while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else who think would enjoy my content, subscribe if you haven't. You can also check out links to my various social medias, as well as the many ways you can help out the channel. Those will be in the video description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.